And she is very good at phone sex. And her job is to put the audience to sleep at night. And she will have phone sex for a half hour with a member of the audience, and it's called Tissue Time with Heidi Cortez.
Howard, you're sick.
I'm a sick man. Ed, you don't understand this stuff.
To understand Howard Stern, it helps to go back to Roosevelt, Long Island, where he grew up. He says, never feeling good enough. He was raised by his mother, Ray, a housewife, and his father, Ben, a radio engineer. Stern talks to them regularly today, and they are often guests on his show.
Dad! He has a hearing aid. Here.
He's turning
Hey, Dad!
When he was a kid, Stern says being a good performer was highly valued in his family.
My father would sit there, and if I started to tell a story, he'd go like this. Quick, come on, move quicker, move quicker, move quicker. You're going too slow.
Stern says his father was distant.
Reading your book, it seems like he would call you a moron at the drop of a hat.
Yeah, the line was from my father, I told you not to be stupid, you moron. I really thought I was a moron. I thought I was stupid.
And your mother?
My mother, yeah, it was a different kind of relationship. My mother was very involved with me. And we had a dialogue constantly. And it was like an umbilical cord. As long as the words were flowing back and forth, we were connected and feeding each other. And I probably grew up very afraid of losing that connection.
So afraid that Stern says he never once asked to leave when his friends moved away in the late 60s as Roosevelt changed from mostly white to mostly black. The Stern stayed until he was in high school because his mother believed in integration.
None of this looks familiar.
No.
He hadn't been back since.
But you grew up here.
I grew up here, but I really kind of blocked it out. I'm realizing that now. I'm just a little confused.
Well, your house is that way.
My house is this way?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I don't even believe that's my house. I can't believe that. Holy mackerel. I call it the House of Horrors.
Why?
It was horrible. It was a horrible place to live. This town was a horrible place to live. It was a nightmare.
Because you were a minority?
Because I was a minority.
And that, Stern says, left him isolated and alone.
And my mother wanted to prove a point. My mother said, we cannot run from black people. Mm-hmm. But the problem was my mom stayed in the house all day, and she sent me into Roosevelt High School. And I had a whole different experience. I was a kid, and I had to fend for myself. I mean, I'd be sitting in a classroom, and a guy would just turn around and, bam, punch me right in the face.
In the classroom?
In the classroom.
For what?
For being white, or just for whatever, but for anger. I mean, these kids were angry, man.
What did you take away from here that you have with you today that you use in your program?
Oh my God, it's the way I relate to the world. There's a general distrust. There's a lot of fear. There's also a tremendous sense of humor, too. But really what stuck with me was the hypocrisy. I could never get my mind around the fact that all those white people left. It pissed me off. And I think I felt very left behind. And I suppose I'm angry about being the one who got left behind. To be the odd man out is not easy.
But on the radio, Stern is the odd man in, the person who controls the show, who decides what material gets used and who gets on the air.
Well, why can I hang up on you? Your phone connection's horrible.
Are you?
Oh, man, come on, don't hang up.
I think when you listen to me, you're an insider. You're in the club. We're not the guy in Roosevelt High School being goofed on when we're all together. We're strong, we're together. Some of us are misfits, some of us are outcasts. And we can admit our insecurities, and we can laugh about them and have a great time.
He is surrounded by loyal staff who help him create the intimacy of an out-of-control, freewheeling locker room.
Sal is acting like such a jerk out in the halls. We knocked over a whole rack of carts. I predict by the end of the show, Sal will light himself on fire.
Co-host Robin Quivers, writer and sound effects maestro Fred Norris, and show producer Gary Dell'abate, who have all been with Stern for more than 20 years, are moving with him to satellite with the rest of the staff. But despite the camaraderie, Stern admits that he's hard to work for.
I'm not a good listener sometimes. I'm too much of a control freak. I'm learning to be better. I was so caught up in just getting the job done that I would miss out on the human aspect of this. Yeah, there was a connection missing. But I truly love those people I work with, and I appreciate everything they do for me, and I just don't say it enough.
Now, you get emotional about this.
Yeah, I do. I really feel that I could have been more connected to them.
Stern says his inability to connect with those close to him off the air is an ongoing problem, and one of the reasons for his divorce in 2001 after 21 years of marriage to the mother of his 3 daughters.
I am withdrawn. I have a hard time sitting and relaxing with people and appreciating how much fun that can be. In some way, I'm very self-contained, but I think, again, that's control. As long as I'm working and doing my thing, I don't have to deal with anything or anyone else.
Perhaps Stern's most intimate connection is on the air with his audience.
The one thing that I do know is when I get behind that microphone and hit that button, it's about as good as it gets for me. That I can sit there and feel the guy at the other end of the radio and know he's with me, and I know I'm making him laugh. And it's just perfect. It's a wonderful rush.
But Stern says he's making some progress on the relationship front. Today, he lives in Manhattan with Beth Ostrosky, a 33-year-old model from Pittsburgh whom he met 5 years ago. She told us her mother wasn't very happy about it.
My mother is a super conservative Catholic woman who...
This is great. Just real quick,
You got to control her story.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, this is good. That's
Yes, I do.
like. This is what I like.
Yeah, I do. This happens all the time.
Let her tell her story, Howard.
Okay, so I met Howard at a dinner party. I called home and I said, Mom, I met the most amazing man, and she was so excited for me. And I mentioned who it was. She hung up the phone. She went to church, and she didn't talk to me for 2 weeks.
Great.
He told us that 3 months into this relationship that you told him, Howard, this relationship is all about you.
Oh, I think I knew that from day one, but I'm okay with it. It's all about him, Ed. We watch TV, what he wants to watch. We eat. We wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. We go to bed at 8. I love it, though. It's my life.
But I don't really feel that it's all about me.
It's all about him.
Just 97% of it.
Yeah, but that's fair.
But the radio and his audience are the most important things in his life, Stern says, and the move to satellite is the last challenge of his professional career. It's a gamble. Will people be willing to pay for radio, or will Stern fade into obscurity? He says he's obsessed with making it work.
I think I'm probably a little too desperate to be successful.
You are successful.
Yeah, but I told you.
A contract for $500 million over 5 years.
That will never mean a thing to me. I will never feel successful.
Howard, you've had a successful book, a successful movie, successful DVD, a successful radio program, #1 in I don't know how many markets. You've changed morning radio. And now you're going to satellite radio for $500 million over the next 5 years. You're not successful?
When you put it that way, of course, that seems successful. But when I'm up at 2 o'clock in the morning and I'm sitting and creating these 2 new channels, there's a fire in me that says, oh my God, I can't disappoint that audience, regardless of what they pay me. And maybe that's why I get paid a lot of money. When you hire me, you hire a nut who is going to work 24 hours a day for you and never, ever burn his audience.